Mordekaiser is a champion I actually have Mastery 6 on despite not playing him that often right now. And that's because the bulk of my play was from before his latest rework. The rework changed a lot of things about Mordekaiser, and some of them won't even be recognised if you hadn't played pre-rework Mordekaiser. But there also are a lot of niche interactions and tricks that have just left Mordekaiser forever. But enough about this rework, and enough about the previous Mordekaiser that I earned mastery on. Let's go back to the first iteration of Mordekaiser. That's right, Mordekaiser has had 2 gameplay reworks. Mordekaiser was released in February 2010, merely 4 months after the release of League of Legends in October of 2009. At the time, Mordekaiser was one of the very few champions to not use mana and use a different resource entirely. Mordekaiser's mana bar was replaced by a shield, and this shield was Mordekaiser's passive. Mord's passive, Iron Man, shielded him for 17.5% of the damage he dealt with abilities, and this was doubled if the damage was to enemy champions. It had a cap of 120 to 630 based on level and decayed by 3% per second. This shield led Mordekaiser to be a deceitfully tanky champion who would always shield, never die. Also, as he had no mana bar, Mordekaiser's abilities would cost him health instead of mana. Mordekaiser's Q was Mace of Spades, an auto-attack enhancer that added bonus range to his next auto-attack and caused it to deal magic damage to the target and 3 additional enemies, applying spell effects, which basically only meant Rylai's Crystal Scepter at the time, and Liandry's Torment in Season 3. If there was only one target though, the damage was increased by 65%. The original Mordekaiser Q has a 100% bonus AD ratio as well as a 40% AP ratio, which was because it was an auto-attack enhancer ability, and therefore dealt his auto-attacks damage. But, like Twisted Fate's red card, the AD ratio is also applied to the AoE magic damage. Mordekaiser's W was Creeping Death, which surrounded himself or his target ally with metal shards, granting bonus armor and magic resistance, and dealing damage to enemies around them every second. If cast on an ally, Mord gains the effects as well, and both champions gain movement speed when moving towards each other. This was added in not on release Mordekaiser, but a while after, in patch 5.4. Mord's E, Siphon of Destruction, simply dealt magic damage to all enemies in a cone shape. And Mord's R was Children of the Grave. It cast a target champion, which dealt magic damage in a quick burst, and healed Mordekaiser for damage dealt, and then repeated this damage and healing over the next 10 seconds. If the target died while cursed, they left behind a ghost that Mordekaiser could control, that also would gain bonus attack damage and last 45 seconds. While active, the ghost granted Mordekaiser 25% of their bonus health and 30% of their AP. Although he would likely have been called a bruiser back then, Mordekaiser absolutely fit the modern definition of a juggernaut by having high damage and tankiness, but a lack of mobility. Mord was often thought to be very weak from what I can remember, since he had no real movement speed nor CC, and so would be easily stopped by CC. As such, labeling Mordekaiser as numero uno was quite a meme. And perhaps it was this weakness that led Mordekaiser to his first rework in Season 5 as part of the Juggernaut reworks, including Mordekaiser, Skarner, Garen, and Darius. In the present day, indicative of how successful these reworks were, only Darius remains mostly untouched, with Skarner having had some tweaks and a major rework planned, and both Mordekaiser and Garen have had gameplay reworks since. This rework, as with most changes in the Juggernaut reworks, were very radical and controversial. For example, this rework of Mordekaiser on the day of the rework gained 100% experience from minions, even in a duo lane. This was quickly nerfed for a few reasons. Riot wanted Mordekaiser to be a bot laner, and it led to the reawakening of a broken but temporary strategy. In Season 3, when Relic Shield was released, using a charge would heal your ally for 2% of your maximum health and grant them gold equal to the kill gold plus 5. This was abusable by duo laners including AD carry and support, and even duo top. The item got hotfixed in the same patch 3.14. Although Relic Shield received many other nerfs and changes over the years, in Season 5 with this Mordekaiser rework, as a champion who received 100% of experience in a duo lane, why not go double Relic Shield? It solved his issue of being melee and being at the mercy of AD carry's poke by giving near infinite sustain, and increased the gold that both bot laners earned. Nerfing Mordekaiser's bonus experience helped stop this from being overwhelming, as he still had a fair reason to be bot lane, such as his new R passive, which could turn the dragon into a ghost. Season 5 Mordekaiser's basic attacks and abilities would curse the dragon, allowing him to control it freely, but replaces any other champion ghosts he had, as well as preventing him from summoning a new ghost while the dragon was up. This was a weird but amazing ability and could function a little like the current Rift Herald by taking the dragon ghost straight to the mid or bot tower. With Season 6 adding in First Tower Blood, this would become more powerful as well. It also had no leash range and so could go as far as it wanted within the duration. Other changes included his W receiving a bit of a rework as well, as now the damage over time only works while he is near his target allied champion. However, if recast, it could do a burst of damage around himself and the target ally, and heal both champions for the same amount. His Q was turned into a free hit, single target attack modifier, causing the next 3 attacks to deal bonus magic damage, with the third attack dealing double damage. His E was basically the same, but now generated increased amounts of shield compared to other abilities, and both it and his Q now both had AD scaling. So what happened? Mordekaiser was still seen, after nerfs to his bot laning and relic shield, as a rather weak champion due to still having the same problems as before, too slow and no CC. Although this was from Riot deliberately defining the Juggernaut class of champions with the Season 5 reworks, they sought to fix these issues. The new Mordekaiser as we know him now is far simpler. We can see where his old kit was moved around to his new kit as well, and some abilities were even combined, such as his Season 5 Q and his old W being placed onto his passive. Mordekaiser's new passive deals 40% AP magic damage on hit, giving him magical base attack synergy like his old Qs, and after attacking 3 times like his Season 5 Q, he gains a damaging aura around himself like his old W. His new Q, Obliterate, smashes the area in front of him, which deals heavy AoE magic damage, a bit like his old E, but if it only hits one enemy, the damage is increased by 40 to 60% based on ability level, like the Q from Release Mordekaiser. His new W is like his old passive, storing damage he deals but also damage he receives as potential shield in his resource bar. Unlike old Mordekaiser, the shield isn't applied right away, and is applied temporarily instead upon casting W. Recasting W will consume the shield to heal for half the amount, a bit like his old W kinda. His new E, Death's Grasp, passively gives him percentage magic penetration, and he active summons a claw AoE skill shot that, after a telegraph delay, pulls all enemy units a fixed distance, dealing some magic damage as well. This is the only ability completely new to Mordekaiser, although an AoE skill shot damage ability can be seen a bit like his old E at a stretch. Mordekaiser's new ultimate, Realm of Death, infamously traps a target champion in the Death Realm, a circular arena around them where only Mordekaiser and the designated target exist, and neither can leave till one dies or the ability times out. Like his old ultimates, Mordekaiser gains stats based on the target once chosen, only it drains their stats over 10 seconds, draining the target for 10% of their attack damage, ability power, total attack speed, maximum health, armor, magic resistance, and size over 7 seconds. Nothing passes in or out of the Death Realm, meaning projectiles mid-flight will remain outside of the Death Realm once the ability is cast, and vice versa. However, anticlimactic as it is, the ability is countered by Quicksilver Sash. If Mordekaiser kills a target within the Death Realm, he keeps their stats until they respawn. While we can argue quite a few things do exist within the new, reworked Mordekaiser that were transferred from the old, I can't quite say that with the same confidence as I did with Urgot. 2 of his active abilities were moved onto a very inactive ability, also known as a passive, and lost their depth. The old W, now his passive aura, cannot be used with an ally, and the new W's health restore and shield are not quite like his old passive that instantly created shield, nor like his old W that drained enemies, rewarding you for getting into the thick of action, and also healing his ally as well. Mordekaiser had to be quite creative using his W movement speed, items like Rylai's and spells like Ghost to get over his main drawbacks, but now with his E-pull, creativity and skill expression has ironically kind of gone out of the window by introducing this new skill shot. There was no real bread and butter combo with old Mord, you simply had goals, wanted to get into melee range and wanted to find ways to achieve that. Now with Mord, you have a simple EQ combo with a low cooldown that you can simply use when you can. Not only that, but new Mordekaiser had no health or mana cost at all, meaning you could absolutely keep spamming out his abilities in top lane until they connected. With the W now providing an active burst of shield instead, it feels like Riot tried to inject some skill expression back into Mordekaiser as they always do, by making you press more buttons. But the skill of old Mordekaiser was getting the shield in the first place due to his lack of range, gap closers and CC, whereas now that's a trivial matter at best. And as a side note, they also changed the names of Mordekaiser's abilities, which used to be references to various metal songs. Overall, the rework succeeded in making Mordekaiser far easier to play by more players, and far more effective as a champion. However, as controversial as turning the dragon into a ghost may have been, new Mordekaiser takes that to a whole new level with his power level, his synergy with the new rune Conqueror, especially on rework release, and his ultimate. Although it may be a success to Riot, old Mordekaiser players and mains would likely quit the game before they ever agree with that. This rework may be the perfect example of how adding skill shots doesn't always translate to a champion taking more skill. There's definitely many opinions to be had with Mordekaiser and his reworks, my own included, so I'd love to hear yours. Let me know if you played old Mordekaiser, prefer the old, prefer the new, or any other thoughts you may have on the Master of Metal. Thanks so much for watching, and if you've seen it already, thanks so much for all the support on the Urgot rework video, as I had this series idea in mind for a long time but kept putting it off for various reasons. Also, if you haven't seen my Urgot rework video, check it out in the end screen or the card in the top right. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Hui hui hui.